Good afternoon and welcome to the October Ordinary Council meeting. We'll now hand over to Councillor Greg James to perform a welcome to country.
Thank you, Mayor Sally and my fellow councillors. I pay respects to our ancestors and I acknowledge our elders, both past, present and emerging. Can I also acknowledge the Yorta Yorta Nations and all its people whose land we meet on today. So on behalf of the Yorta Yorta Elders Council, the 16 family groups, the 8 respected tribes who proudly share in the status of traditional owners, I say a very warm welcome to this wonderful land and waterways. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Councillor James, item 2, acknowledgement. We, Greater Shepparton City Council, acknowledge the Yorta Yorta peoples of the land which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay our respect to their tribal elders, we celebrate their continuing culture and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. Item 3, privacy notice. This public meeting is being streamed live via our Facebook page and made available for public access on our website along with the official minutes of this meeting. All care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, it is assumed that your consent is given in the event that your image is broadcast to the public. It is also assumed that your consent is given to the use and disclosure of any information that you share at the meeting, including personal or sensitive information, to any person who accesses those recordings or minutes. Item 4, governance principles. Council considers that the recommendations contained in this agenda gives effect to the overarching governance principles stated in section 9.2 of the Local Government Act 2020. These principles are as followed, and councillors, they're listed numbers 1 to 9 on page 6 of the agenda. We now go to page 7. Item 5, apologies. Do we have any apologies for today's meeting?
Yes, Mayor Sally, we have an apology from Councillor Seema Abdullah.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Adam. Can I have someone second that? All in favour? Carried. Item 6, councillors, do we have any conflicts of interest this afternoon? No. Item 7, confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. Are there any minutes of the meeting opposed? Can I please have a councillor move that?
I move that the minutes of the 19th September 2023 council meeting as circulated be confirmed.
Have a councillor second that. All in favour? Motion carried. Item 8, public question time now received. Item 9, deputations of petitions received. Councillors, we now go to page 8 of the agenda, item 10.1, Multicultural Action Plan 2023 to 2025. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Adam.
Thank you. I'll move the motion that the council adopt the Greater Shepparton Multicultural Action Plan 2023 to 2026 as attached.
Thank you. Actually, the heading, can I just double check? Sorry, can I just get some clarification? The heading's different to the recommendation. Does that matter?
No, we go with the recommendation.
Yeah, that's right. Just for that clarity that the heading's different to the recommendation. So, yeah, thank you, Councillor Adam. Can I have a councillor second that motion?
2020.
Councillor Ladson. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Very briefly, thank you, Mayor Sally. To know you don't believe that, but it will be. Yeah, look, this has been discussed at length over many, many months. So this motion is just adopting the action plan for the next 3 years. I will just read the executive summary because I think that really summarises it perfectly without going into too much detail. At the December 2022 council meeting, council carried a motion to approve the recommendation that the multicultural strategy is diversified into a 3-year multicultural action plan that is integrated into the Greater Shepparton City Council plan. Since this time, community consultation has occurred, been analysed and is captured in the Multicultural Action Plan Findings Report, August 2023. The findings report has informed the development of the Greater Shepparton Multicultural Action Plan 2023-2026, which is now ready for council adoption. And there were some changes, obviously. I think we discussed, the Mayor about acknowledging different faith type celebrations within our community, and a few other minor arrangements were made. So, yep, I'm happy with all of that. So here we are today to adopt that.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Adam. Councillor Ladson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Thank you, Councillor Ladson. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Just reiterating too that the heading for it is definitely Greater Shepparton, and it's the Multicultural Action Plan, and it's for the 3 years, not the 2 years on the heading, for 3 years, 2023 to 2026, as stipulated there. This particular action plan, this plan is for our region and it's really for our community, and it's about inclusion.
The key strategic activities in this are around community leadership, around social responsibility and well-being, and it's also around vibrancy and the diverse community we have. If you look back to previous multicultural plans, well, there really wasn't many generations ago. In fact, that was all sort of pretty much done by osmosis because of the multicultural groups that came to this particular region, and they actually formed their own action plan without actually formalising it. It was really by need to exist, and in a democracy that provides freedom, safety, and above all, opportunity here. If you look at it, you know, that was the blueprint of what we really have here now, the way that people came to this particular region and set in motion what was actually required there together. So this plan is very much for those in the multicultural communities for themselves. It's not just for us to include them, it's for them to actually embrace that as well, and for us to get around that as well.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Are there any councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you. I'd just like to put my own 2 cents into supporting this motion and this action plan, as it states in the report. Well over 17% of our community are from either born overseas, speak a language other than home. Our multicultural community is a huge part of our community, and it could be argued that the thing we most have in common is that we are all different, and in the staying true to the values of equity over equality, it isn't just about everyone having the same, but everyone having what they need. And I think that this particular action plan goes a long way to meeting that need for a large portion of our community, a portion that within themselves are so different and have so many different needs. And I think that, you know, while it's been really awful that Greater Shepparton has had to go through such terrible experiences, such as our COVID thing and the floods and various experiences, one of the things that comes true in these moments is that we do struggle to meet the needs of all of our community members, that there are some who aren't fully having their needs met, but the strength of that is that until you know that you have a weakness, you can't deal with it. And so we come out stronger and working towards filling those gaps and filling those needs. And I encourage this action plan to, and the council itself, to continue pushing forward, to continue wanting to do more, and to continue wanting to meet the needs of our very different community members equally, so that they can all thrive and exist in the best of ways in our community. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? All right. Any closing comments, Councillor Adam?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Harley. It's pretty obvious that multiculturalism is really one of the strengths of this community. We no doubt are probably outside Dandenong are the most multicultural city in Victoria, if not Australia for that matter. So this is very important to have this plan. It certainly gives a voice to our multicultural communities. So I fully support it.
All right, great. Thank you, Councillor Adam. Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 15 of the agenda, item 10.2, Greater Shepparton Positive Ageing Strategy 2023 to 2027. There is a recommendation. Councillor, put that forward as a motion. Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. I put forward the recommendation that the council adopt the Greater Shepparton Positive Ageing Strategy 2023 to 2027 as attached.
Thank you. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Dobson. Councillor Brophy.
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sarley. It's really interesting that this has come before us at the October monthly meeting, because it is also Seniors Month. It's also right in the middle of the Seniors Festival, so perfect timing in order to come along with that. The Positive Ageing Advisory Committee, to which Council have, is tremendous, and I'm very proud to be a representative of Council on that particular committee. This particular strategy that's come before us has been a long time in the making in putting it together, and you know, the Greater Shepparton City Council is committed to supporting the needs and aspirations of older people through its positive ageing portfolio. Within Greater Shepparton, we have 17,000 residents are recognised as older people.
making up 25% of Greater Shepparton's total population. The development of the strategy provides an opportunity post-COVID lockdowns, the October 2022 flood event, the changing federal government policy and age reforms to increase connectivity and refresh the focus of our Greater Shepparton older people. The strategy has been developed as part of an integrated framework of council plans and strategies that contribute to supporting older people, their carers and families across Greater Shepparton. The Greater Shepparton Positive Ageing Advisory Committee has played a vital role in the development of this strategy, and in particularly can I pay great credit to the council staff that are associated with that as well. And this provides a platform where representatives of the older community could provide advice to council on opportunities and challenges faced by older people. The strategy also recognises the role of all levels of government, the health sector, not-for-profits, the service providers, play a driving forward positive ageing actions in this as well. And just to highlight that the themes identified through the consultation period for this was, that really came out really strongly, was about information and communication, social connections and activities. Transport is a really big one for our elderly. We're also looking at workforce and training. Just because you're of a certain age doesn't mean that you shouldn't be in the workforce at all. In fact, some of the experience and some of the better performers are those of an older generation. Also, building the environment, home help, safety and support. So that formed in those particular 8 themes formed 4 themes to bring it all together. And this is what we have as the strategy here. And I fully endorse the strategy that's been put forward.
Thank you, Councillor Bradford. Councillor Dobson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, it's interesting that this agenda item, together with the one beforehand, it goes beyond the old roads, rates and taxes that some people in the community think that we should be associated with. As an older person within the community, I can tell you that this hits home very hard. The older you get, the more inclined you are to be at home and not to feel part of the community and not to feel wanted and not to feel appreciated. And I think that the council is terrific in taking the initiative of making people feel at home within their own community. There's a change of work habits going on. I mean, the age of retirement these days, I think, is gone from 65 out to 67 now. But I don't think any aged person really stops working. I mean, the time that you retire is the time that you're no longer with us. I think each day that you are an older person, it becomes more and more important, and therefore it's important that the council helps out. Council does have obligations, and there are community expectations as to looking after the whole of the community. This council is well known and sometimes criticised for going beyond the roads, rates and taxes, the LGBT community, for example, gender equity and climate change policies, all those sorts of issues that some people will say to us, look, it's not your remit. Well, I beg to differ, because as community leaders, I think we're not only entitled to, but I think we must look after everybody in all parts of the community. And so the positive ageing strategy going on to 2027 is just one part of it. I do commend our staff, Peter, for putting this together, and the amount of work that they put into it. I think it's a marvellous document, and I'm very happy that council are going to look at it very carefully.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you. Yes, just further, I can't help but speak on these particular items. I think this is, also I know I say this all the time, but I think this is one of the most important documents we have, because this is really about everybody ages. Well, we certainly hope we are lucky enough to age. And once we have spent an entire life giving to our communities in various ways, we hope that we can age with grace and with dignity and with joy. And I think that this particular document goes a long way to making sure that we are creating that sort of existence for the aged population of our community of Greater Shepparton. I note within the report, it's like a quarter of our population. It's a humongous part. And that taps into, going off the back of our previous agenda item, our multicultural communities, our LGBTI+ communities, our disabled communities, everyone, just the list goes on. Every part of community ages and exists within this particular document. And so this is really important to make sure that we're capturing those unique needs and just making sure that everybody at every stage of life, as has previously been mentioned, has the opportunity to contribute and to be valued within our community. And I think that, as Councillor Brophy mentioned, some really key things that come through, I do want to highlight themes like public transport, themes like footpaths and ways of getting around, safe ways of getting around, and it's about having flat surfaces. Things like community safety, things like activities to go to. These are all very basic things and a part of the services that council provides across the board. And it's about making sure that we're doing each of these things in a way that includes everybody. And something as simple, something that stood out for me from the action plan was the request that the crossings at traffic lights be made longer to create a safer environment. And that's such a simple thing that we could change. I don't know if it's actually simple to change out the back there, but it's such a simple idea that I personally would never have thought of, but will benefit so many within our community, not just our age population, but so many others. And I think that is a wonderful example of when we include everyone benefits. I might not need that today or tomorrow, but at some point I will. And each of us will have an example of that. And this strategy goes a very long way to dealing with that, and I'm very happy to endorse it today.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Mr. Adam.
And very briefly, thank you, Mayor Sally. It's just another indicator that what great benefit a positive ageing advisory committee adds to this community and to this council. It's from that where these type of strategies are developed. Again, giving a voice to the older generations, which are a major part of our community. So I cannot but support this 100%.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Adam. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor James.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I'm really excited about this plan because it's reflected in our reconciliation action plan too as well, and right across our strategic plan. It's so important. Our elders, and I speak about my elders, they are a very intrinsic part of our culture in regards to the keepers of knowledge. And they are like our cultural encyclopedia, and we treasure them as much as we can. And you know, it's up to everyone in our community, particularly my community, to provide a safe passage and a journey for our elders in their retirement age too as well. And that's not only for our elders, it's right across the board. We do need to stop and lend our assistance and some guidance and some care too as well within our communities. And these plans and our themes are very important for us to respect our elders too as well. Like a lot of us, we're approaching the elderly age, and I would like to think that there's someone out there that will keep an eye on me as well and help me through as a bit of a safe journey and passage too as well. So fully support this, and we need to continue to support this because they are treasures and we need to protect them as we can. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Thank you, Councillor James. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Any closing comments, Councillor Brophy?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sally. Can I say to my fellow colleagues here, thank you so much for your comments. I know that the Positive Ageing Advisory Committee will take heart the wonderful affirmation comments that you've put forward, because they really they will be listening, and thank you very much for putting that forward. And how terrific, can I say, that the name of the actual advisory committee, Positive Ageing, the very first word, positive. It's not just the Ageing Advisory Committee, it's the positive ageing. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried and opposed. Councillors, we now go to page 22 of the agenda, item 10.3, Lemnos Community Structure. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Councillor Adams.
Move the motion that the council note the estimated costs and options of erecting a memorial structure in Lemnos, which recognises the sacrifices of nurses during the 1910s on the Greek island of Lemnos, and that the Lemnos community will be invited to consider the initiative as a community plan priority.
Very good, Councillor Adam. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Brophy.
I second that motion.
Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Sally. I won't go into my speech of last 2 months ago about this. I think everyone knows my position. I think everyone knows the history to a degree now as well, so I won't bore you with that. But just in relation to the actual motion before us, it was, I think the team's done a great job, staff, in getting a lot of this information brought to the fore. The estimated costs, look, I think we discussed at the time, this could be a $5,000 structure, or it could be a $300,000 structure. I envisage it won't be anywhere near that. There is some numbers in the report here of $18,000 for different types of structures. It also notes that the Sir Murray Boucher statue was $230,000, which I don't envisage anything remotely close to that in this particular environment we're in at the moment. But it's interesting to note that, which is not in the report, there is reference to it, however. Funding for this can come through our community plan type funding arrangements we have. We've got 300 grand there, and we usually give that out to different community groups or different projects. Some of the money could come from there. A large portion can come through other external funding opportunities. The federal government have a memorial structure fund that we could access as well. And I think Louise and her team are well onto that as well. Plus, I think I mentioned last time that there's quite a few prominent Greek families in Greater Shepparton that are very passionate and very keen to contribute. So ultimately, I don't envisage this thing costing any more than a few $1,000s potentially, not to mention the efforts of our staff and their time. However, as I said last time, this is critical. I think it's 100 years too late to a degree, but better late than never. Lemnos is a unique name. It was named for a purpose, for a reason. It links us clearly to the Gallipoli campaign and to the Anzacs, which is one aspect of Australian culture that is prominent in the minds of every Australian and has been for 100 years. For us to ignore that, it would be almost negligent. And I think we have been over the years, but it's never too late to repair that. And the federal government, as I mentioned last time, have committed almost $5 million for the Lemnos Remembrance Trail, which is set to open in April, I think, of 2024. Structures in Port Phillip have been erected to commemorate the name and especially the fantastic work of the nurses on that island, and the soldiers, of course, and the sacrifices that were made by both sides of war. So I really am looking forward to this. There's a lot of work to be done, though, but before we get to any particular resolution here, I think we've had some meetings already in the general area for Lemnos, for the local community members to be part of this. I know that's moving forward, and once that's established, we can also get the ideas and the different aspects of what people in that area want, where this may actually go. There's a few options up for grabs, so I'm just looking forward to this pushing forward quickly. I'd like to think that within 3 to 6 months we may have something actually ready to go.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Adam. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Can I first acknowledge Councillor Adam, his passion and commitment to this particular project, and also the area of Lemnos that is named there. I really appreciate you bringing it to not only the council's attention, but also to the community's attention. They know the name of where it is. A lot of the people don't know what the story is behind it, and I think bringing this awareness to our community and to the wider community has been a testament to you, Councillor Adams, so thank you very much for doing that. For those who don't know about the Soldier Settlement Program and the alignment post-war, you know, the naming being recognised at Lemnos is really synonymous with the Shepparton area, which is terrific. I mean, only on Sunday we had the Greek National Day of Remembrance, which was held here at the Shepparton Cenotaph, and there were actual bus loads come up from Melbourne to attend that. Certainly the Australian Greek Ex-Servicemen's Association, together with the Australian Greek community, were there en masse, and they come to Shepparton. And there's no mistake that, you know, Lemnos is named there as well. So Councillor Adam pointed out a number of other projects that are happening around the island of Lemnos here in Shepparton with the Australian Government, with the City of Port Phillip, with Lemnos Square being named. And there's a documentary on the Lemnos story scheduled to be on SBS in next month about the support and kindness offered by the nurses on the island. So I look forward to that. So look, I certainly welcome this next stage. I know that the figures, people were a bit aghast, particularly with the Sir Murray Bush statue, but a lot of that was funded under Veteran Affairs and through RSL, etc. I would envisage that no matter which way we go, we will get that support there at some point. And I also welcome the recognition of the wartime nurses, who are, also casualties of war here. Encourage the Lemnos community to get on board and really drive this fabulous opportunity which may never present itself again. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? No? Any closing comments, Councillor Adam?
No, just thank you, Councillor Brophy, for your commentary. It's all positive. There's no downside to this whatsoever.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Adam. Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried and opposed. Councillors, we now go to agenda item 10.4, future governance, Common Valley Libraries. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor support the motion? Councillor Greg James.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I move the recommendation 10.4 on page 26 of the agenda, the future governance Golden Valley Libraries. I'll read out the recommendation. Number 1, approved continued collaboration in the delivery of library services by the current member councils of the Golden Valley Regional Library Corporation. Number 2, approve adoption of the not-for-profit company limited by guarantee model, registered under the Corporations Act 2001 and registered as a charity with the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission as the preferred future governance model for the Golden Valley Regional Library Corporation. And number 3 is note and encourage a review of member council costs and contributions as part of any future collaborative governance model agreement.
Thank you, Councillor James. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Ladson. Councillor James, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. The Golden Valley Regional Library Corporation, trading as GB Libraries, was formed in agreement between Greater Shepparton City Council, Strathbogie Shire Council and Moira Shire Council to deliver library services on behalf of Members Council. This partnership has seen some really productive some projects. Tatura is a great example of that too as well. A brand new library which is catering for our community and is meeting the needs of our community too as well. There's a whole range of users there as well, and our servicing the needs of our schools, and that is the same right across our councils too as well, our neighbouring councils, Strathbogie and Moira. And in the Moira there has been significant changes in regards to the libraries at both Cobram and also Yarrawonga as well. So great things are happening because of this amalgamation, this partnership. The Local Government Act in 1989 enabled a group of councils to apply to the then Minister for approval to enter into a regional library agreement, which we are involved of, and form the Regional Library Corporation. So currently, our status is Golden Valley Regional Library Corporation. The Local Government Act 2020 does not refer to the regional library corporations, but enables councils to form beneficial enterprises to share services and resources. 2020 Act allows existing regional libraries to be grandfathered, that is, operate as they did under the superseded 1989 Act. An effective deadline is 2030, so that applies for all regional libraries under this Act to cease and evolve into a new beneficial enterprise. So obviously we're working towards that, and as that approaches, we'll have to then come back and do some bargaining, but at the moment, we're still operating under this Act, which is, it's meeting the needs of us and also our partners too as well. I want to read out the case for collaboration. The case for collaboration, the existing RLC, the Regional Libraries Corporation model, is a proven method of collaboration that delivers multiple benefits to members' councils. Economies of scale, shared overheads, administration and associated cost savings. This is a prime driver for collaboration, reducing costs to councils and also and for ratepayers as well, importantly for ratepayers. In 2019, the Victorian Auditor General's Office conducted an audit of council library services. This report found that regional libraries, corporations and cooperative models are overall the most effective than standalone councils' libraries. So there are options as well, but our preferred model is to continue in the way that we are delivering at the moment. So I won't go much further than that, but I'll just summarise to say this collaboration is the model preferred by the current members across our regional library corporation. This is information in a case against collaboration, but this approach didn't appear to be favourable. In the case of GV Libraries, the most likely council to provide these services to the other member councils would be Greater Shepparton City Council, as the largest council by population, income, employees and resources, centrally located and currently providing payroll and financial services by agreement to GV Libraries. In Part 2, the company limited by guarantee is a preferred option as it does not need share capital. Rather, members agree to its establishment and guarantee that any future liabilities up to a maximum amount, a nominal amount like $10 per member, if the company is wound up. Company limited by guarantee is suitable for small to medium enterprises, which we are involved in with 2 or more members. It provides more protection for more councils through the nominal guarantee amount and is the preferred model for Victorian councils. The existing registered business name of Golden Valley Libraries could be transferred to a new entity, therefore providing minimal disruption to patrons and or businesses. So overall, Mayor Sully, this is a preferred model. It is one which is meeting our community and it's servicing our members too as well. So I fully support this recommendation.
Very good, thank you, Councillor James. Councillor Latson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. Councillor Greg James has summed it up very sublimely. I will add that the strength in numbers is relevant with Moira Shire and Strathbogie councils on board. I hope that collaboration continues and it's been beneficial for all parties involved, and that libraries are a super important hub of each community, and you know, it's not just for certain groups or pockets, but it's for everyone, and that's, you know, GB Libraries excel at that, so I'd like to see this continue.
Very good, thank you, Councillor Latson. Any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. Can I confess, I love libraries. I really do.
Surprising.
It is surprising. What has been presented here too is, you know, it sounds very legal, it sounds very complex, but in essence it's probably not. This is really just a slight transition, bit of an enforced review and, you know, possible restructure under the Local Government Act of 2020 to be adopted. It has to be adopted by the end of June in 2030, and it's really about a governance model, and I think what we've had in place in the past has worked so well. It's just transitioning into a new model, but still pretty much with the same outcome with that as well. It's really about continued collaboration with the adjoining councils and really sharing that common intent. And if anybody hasn't been to a library lately, do yourself a favour, go along to a library. It's not just about books, it's modern contemporary libraries, and they really are a living, breathing, storytelling, interactive community centre. Get along.
Councillor Brophy. Any councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. I just want to reiterate Councillor Brophy's words. I think the thing we need to face, the facts here, is that libraries are different today than they were 10 years ago or 20 or 50 years ago. The challenges are just mounting each year. Different environment. The internet has obviously cut deeply into the actual service itself. So this continued collaboration, it's not really a matter of choosing one option over another. I think this is the only option we have for us, is to keep libraries up and running. I just want to mention the last point. I think Councillor James read a few of the case for collaboration. The final point to me is probably the one that really is the most important one, and it's this, quote, better ability to adapt to the changing nature of the role of public libraries, i.e. the shift from a narrower resource lending towards information access, community programs and activities. A special service organisation separate from council has the ability to be more responsive to patron needs and changes in the current environment. And I can see those changes rapidly over the next few years. So to keep libraries a viable option, they've got to change in the services they provide. They are doing that. And if we continue doing what we're doing here, I think we'll move with the times as well, and they can still be a valid and accessible resource for our community.
Very good, Councillor Adam. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that it's been really well explained, in great detail, the decision-making going on behind this. But while this is a process that we needed to go through prior to 2030, and we're making that choice nice and early, I just want to share with the community that on the outside, this will look, if not very little, it won't look like anything to the community. This particular model has been chosen, for me, most importantly, because it will look exactly the same on the outside as it has up until now. So we'll continue to have our wonderful libraries and all of the different things that they provide. And even the name isn't going to change. So from the outside, please know that there really is no change happening to the libraries in terms of provision and the wonderful libraries that you know and love. It is behind the scenes from all the fund governance legality side of things that the work will get done. So please know our libraries aren't going anywhere, and it's just the really information heavy part that we need to go through.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? No? Any closing comments, Councillor James?
Oh, thank you, Mayor Sully. Just to say, reiterate some of the positive comments and about how important our libraries are within our community. You know, there's a whole range of user groups that do access our libraries too as well. And our libraries are staying staying open later too as well, which is improving the access to our community. But they are great hubs, and yes, I have seen Councillor Brophy at that library a couple of times. They also, this time of year, it's a great environment for our Year 12 students too as well, to gather some strength and momentum leading up to their exams. I've personally seen a lot of students accessing our libraries, and it's a great resource for them too as well. So thank you to all the council for supporting this very important recommendation.
Councillor James. Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried and opposed. Councillors, we now go to page 34 of the agenda, item 11.1, 2023/2024 Christmas closure. There is a recommendation. Councillors have a council. Councillor Latson.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I'd like to move the recommendation, item 11.1, 2023/2024 Christmas closure. The recommendation as follows: that the council resolve to close the council offices to members of the public at 3 p.m. on Friday, 22nd of December 2023, and reopen at 8:15 a.m. Tuesday, 2nd of January 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Latson. Can I have a councillor second that motion?
I'll second the motion. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Thank you, Councillor Adam. Councillor Latson, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor Sally.
Very good. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, Mayor Sally, the council resolved to close the council offices to members of the public at 3 p.m. Friday, 22nd December 2020, and reopen at 8:15. I just want to confirm that I'm a little bit confused because the sign at the front of the door does say 8:15 a.m. opening hours. And I happened to be there this morning and it said 9 a.m. and I had to wait out the front and get someone to open the door for me. So I just want to confirm, maybe I read it wrong. Is it certain days that it changes?
Happy for CEO to get that clarification.
We might refer to Mr. Teitzel on that one.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no, my pleasure.
Thanks for the question. The opening hours of customer service changed through COVID and
Correct.
to commence at 9 a.m. and it's remained that way for some time now. And the signage on the door hasn't been amended. That's the answer.
So we are, obviously, we're happy to open at 8:15. So is that correct, the motion, that we'll be 8:15?
No, that's historic. Below 8:15
a.m.
Yeah.
So it's actually 9. Correct?
9 a.m. Right.
Do we need to change that?
Well, yeah, I mean, for all we knew, it was going to open at 8:15 in the new year, but
We should change it to
yeah.
9
So what time would we like to open?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Okay, Councillor Adam, I might get you to
Yeah, like,
actually, it was Councillor Latson who moved the motion.
move it to accept the amendment?
Actually, yeah. Sorry, I might just get some. What's the easiest way to do this, or should we?
Mover accepts the change.
Yeah, the change. Who wants to? The mover or the seconder can't propose a change. It has to be another one, or can it be the seconder?
You can propose a change to both the mover and seconder, and they accept.
If the mover accepts and...
Yeah.
I'll withdraw my recommendation.
No, just that, propose a change to obviously amend the 8:15 and to 9 AM. Do you accept that,
Yes,
councillor Hudson?
thank you, Mayor Sally.
Hudson?
I certainly do, yep.
We're all clear with that? All right, very good. Please continue, councillor Adam.
That's it, thank you.
Very good. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? No, any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Springs.
Thank you. Just to clarify, we do this every year. It just is when it's a quiet time for the organisation. Most people go away or are spending time with family. And so we close council to the public for the council staff to have the opportunity to do the same. So it's a very standard procedure. This time last year we did it, the year before we did it as well. And so it's a very, very stock standard week away from the administration, and they'll be back at 9 o'clock on Tuesday, 2nd of January.
Thank you, councillor Springs. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Brophy.
Yeah, just to pick up on the fact that a number of staff will be taking leave, as Councillor Spink said, that staff involved in delivering essential services and programs continue to operate throughout that period as required.
Very good. Thank you, councillor Brophy. Councillor Latson, any closing comments? Oh, sorry, I should say, is there any other councillors that want to speak to the motion? No. Councillor Latson, any closing comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Sally. I just wish everyone an enjoyable holiday period, whether they're celebrating Christmas or not.
Too easy. We'll have a December meeting where we can get that message out, but very good. If there's nothing else, we'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 37 of the agenda, 11.2, 2024 council meeting schedule. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Dobson.
I move that the council resolve that the scheduled council meetings for 2024 will be held at 3 p.m. on the fourth Tuesday of each month at 70 to 90 Welsford Street, Shepparton. There's no scheduled council meeting to be held in January 2024, and the scheduled council meeting cycle will be resumed on the 27th of February 2024.
Thank you, councillor Dobson. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Latson. Councillor Dobson, would you like to speak to the motion?
If I can show my age, there was a time when council meetings were held on the first Tuesday of the month, many, many years ago, but that was before monthly financials were presented. And so councillors only got one financial report per year, and that was the annual financial report. However, with the increase in formal accounting requirements now by various operations within the Local Government Act, it is now more practical for us to, instead of going on the third Tuesday of the month, to go on the fourth Tuesday of the month. We are, as councillors, we are continually requiring every piece of financial information that we can get, because it's one of the two main platforms upon which we are elected, that is financial capability and, of course, the management of the CEO management of the council. And so all we're doing here is saying that we'll meet on the fourth Tuesday in February. As been pointed out before, I'd like to give away the myth, the urban myth, that the whole council sort of folds up and goes away for 2 months. Nothing can be further from the truth. In fact, I'm quite surprised that council will be open, the council offices will be open on the 2nd of January. Most people in Victoria, if not Australia, are still at the beach or at the mountains or at Sprite Caravan Park, and it surprises me that council's coming back so quickly. So I commend the council management on bringing that forward. We will have staff in all areas of council. It may be skeleton staff in some, but I do commend those council officers who are going to give away their January and early February holidays to give us the results. But be assured that when we come back on the 27th of February, we'll come back with all guns blazing, so to speak.
Thank you, councillor Dobson. Councillor Latson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Sally. I'll note that moving the OCM to the fourth Tuesday of the month will put a bigger gap between the council activities.
Yes,
put on. That's all.
Very good. Sounds good. Thank you, councillor Latson. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Councillor Adam.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I'm not really speaking against the motion. I'd say this each year for the last 8 years. I've always believed that we should have a scheduled meeting in January. It's very brief, even if it's a 20-minute meeting. However, I've been fighting a losing battle for many years. I'm sure I'll probably lose again tonight. But as Councillor Latson, sorry, I don't know, I keep calling you Sam. mentioned, the gap is increasing now. So it's nearly 2 months without council physically meeting in that period, being now the 4th Tuesday. So it strengthens my case, but I don't think it strengthens it enough.
Thank you, Councillor Adam. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Spinks.
I'll start by saying it doesn't lengthen it. It's exactly the same. Sorry, folks. 2 months is 2 months. It doesn't matter if it's different. But also just to highlight that for myself, I'm comfortable with not having the scheduled council meeting in January because it's really about giving each of the councillors enough time to be properly briefed on items, which means the council staff then need to have enough time to be able to gather their data and reports and whatnot. So it's just one of those things, but there's always the option for us to hold additional council meetings should a matter arise that needs to be dealt with immediately. So it's not as if we just to clarify, it's not as if we take that time and just put everything down and walk away until February. The work goes on, we just don't have a meeting. So, but the other point I do want to highlight is that because of this change, not this December, but 2024 December, the council meeting will fall in that week that is traditionally taken off. So I did raise this and just ask that question whether it would be worth amending today, and ultimately there will be a new council cohort in at that time next year. So to give them one of their first tasks to do, I guess, they can decide whether they're happy to meet in that week or to do it otherwise. So just noting it here today, but I'm comfortable to move this as it is today and then they can kind of work it out for themselves.
Very good, thank you, Councillor Spinks. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you. Yeah, spot on, Councillor Spinks, like in terms of having the preparation for the reports and all of that ready there for them. And that, not everybody will be at the Bright Caravan Park, and the new cohort will come in and one of their first meetings might be on the Boxing Day, but we'll just wait and see how that plans out. Can I just say in regards to the scheduling, it also has the timing of when the meetings are on and that as well. And we've had discussions in and around that too. And I think there's times have changed in significantly. I know that Councillor Dobson mentioned about when it was on the first week of the month, and of course that was back in the Menzies era. And of course, with nowadays with the live streaming that we have, and we also have the recording of it, and people can look back at the meetings and so forth. So we don't have what I can say, particularly since post-COVID, a real minimalist attendance in the gallery nowadays to come along. So people can, it's a different option. So to some degree, it doesn't restrict, whatever time we have it on, it doesn't restrict people from being able to view the meetings as it was years ago when people were, had to wait to find out in the mail or the newspaper that a few days later what was actually being said. You can look at it online. So I think we're at a stage now where we're fairly contemporary, and as Councillor Spinks said, we can always have an extraordinary meeting if ever we need to.
Very good, thank you, Councillor Brophy. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thank you, Ms. Ali. I'm hopeful, every time this comes up, it's always a bit of a tick and flick exercise with a fair bit of commentary. I'm just hopeful that next time the council meeting schedule comes up, which will be with the new council, that people approach this a little bit differently. It needs to be an open discussion and an opportunity to reassess if these days and times work for everybody in the team, because circumstances change. We've always fallen back to Tuesdays as a default. I've been in this for 11 years and only once formally asked to change that day, but people were not enamoured with that. So I'm just hopeful, if we're a council that really wants diverse representation, which includes young people, families, workers, people who study, we need to be a bit flexible on the days and understand that not everybody is retired, not everybody has support at home, but these are the people who also need to have a seat at the table and speak for their voter base and the people they represent. So I don't think it's good enough to just tick and flick and say this is the day. If we're going to be a cohesive team, we all need to understand that people are often in different circumstances to themselves and need to earn a crust. And potentially these opportunities should be received openly with a proper discussion and not just shut down so that Tuesdays remain the default for 200 years.
Thank you, Councillor. Summer, any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Any closing comments, Councillor Wilson?
Yes, I sympathise with Councillor Dem about putting up a different idea every year, but fortunately, the majority says that this is the best way of doing it, not having it January. In terms of Councillor Summers' point, which does have some validity, but there's a terrible lot of organisation and practice that goes into getting agenda items, getting reports to a point where we can debate these at an open council meeting. And I think there's got to be some continuity across the board. And Tuesdays have been forever, I can remember going back whenever. Tuesdays has been the day. If there's a better day, perhaps you're right. Perhaps we should look at another day. But at this stage, we had a good discussion about it the other day, and Tuesday seemed to be the thought of the majority. So the new cohort, as you say, the new cohort can look at it in 12 months' time, but that won't be our remit at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson. Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Councillors, we now go to page 40 of the agenda, item 11.3, contracts awarded under delegation, September 2023. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor James.
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. Can I move the recommendation 11.3 on page 40 of the agenda, contracts awarded under delegation, September 2023. I'll read out the recommendation that the council, 1, note the contracts awarded under delegation pursuant to a formal tender process for the reporting period, and number 2, note the request for tenders but not yet awarded.
Great, thank you, Councillor James. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Latson. Councillor James, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sully. There's only 2 there, but I'll just briefly explain the 2. Number 1, the contracts awarded under delegated authority. There is 1, provision of party and event equipment, hire services, panel of suppliers with an initial term of 3 years with 2 single-year options at an estimated value of $553,240. There are a list of panel of suppliers in there, and I'll read them out, Mayor Sarley too as well. Awarded 2, Burke Hire, Northern Hire Group Proprietary Limited, Foot Waste Solutions, Matt Langley Electrical Proprietary Limited, Golden Valley Generator Hire Proprietary Limited, Golden Valley Lose and Forklift Hire, JOJ Hire Proprietary Limited, trading as Shep Hire, the trustee of RAKT Unit Trust, trading as GB Party Hire, Mashiri Proprietary Limited, trading as Barland's Event Hire, Connex Hire, Game Traffic and Contracting. Congratulations to all of those contractors awarded to. In number 2, request for tenders advertised but not yet awarded. This is for Tatura, excuse me, this is for Tatura Structure Plan, intersections, functional designs. That's it.
Real good.
Oh, sorry, and yes, Mayor, before further, as Councillor Braithwaite explained to me, the other one is the collaborative third-party purchasing arrangements, and in that we have appointed the entity as a Procurement Australia, and that's for the contract details of mobile bins, and also referred to the award of CN, manufacturer of supply of curbside collection bins, glass only and Foggo.
Great, thank you so much, Councillor James. Councillor Latson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Just to point out that one of the companies awarded has been misspelled. That would be Foot Waste Solutions. That's all, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Latson. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion?
I have a point of clarification. Is this Procurement Australia Contract 2026 the same as item 13.2 in our agenda that we haven't awarded yet?
Yes.
Have we awarded 2026?
Yeah. That's for later conversation.
Right. What does recently being utilised mean? That we are going to award or considering awarding or have awarded?
It's effectively meaningless in the context because it's a separate report, comes up, separate resolution later in the agenda, so motion, I'd refer to Director of Infrastructure for any further clarification.
Thank you. To go through Mayor Sally for the mention of Procurement Australia in this contract purely for noting purposes. The actual contract will be considered part of 13.2 agenda item.
Clear with that, councillor Summer?
Not really, because that's the only entity listed there. It's not all of the tender. Okay, yep, then perhaps in future that could be more clear.
No. Noted. Okay, thank you. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Summer?
Just to say again that it's very light on these last few months. Considering we've raised the delegated authority recently, since then we've had less and less come up. I mean, there's a panel, which doesn't actually equate to anything. There's Tatura and this in Australia, which we haven't yet awarded. So they used to be quite intensive, but obviously it must have slowed down for some reason, I'm not sure. So I'm just noting that it's light on.
Thank you, councillor Summer. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion?
Yeah.
Councillor Spinks?
Yep, thank you. I think it's interesting. It's all about how people individually interpret it, I guess. I just, sharing my thoughts, I'm guessing, I feel that it's just light on because of the time of year. We're in the process of my interpretation. I think that it's certainly not for a lack of work being done. I think this is a really important piece of transparency that goes on, and I appreciate being able to see it each month, and I don't think there's anything different about it. My personal interpretation.
Thank you, councillor Spinks. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Any closing comments, councillor James?
Oh, not really, councillor. Mayor Sally, just basically, we're light on because we're actually doing the job. We're doing the work.
Out of the game.
Our community want. So that's why the contracts are light. And that's a good thing for us. Obviously, the contracts will come in, but we're getting the jobs done on our council, and that's what they're there for. If they're light on, it means they will escalate in the next month, and they'll escalate from here onwards. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Waiting.
Thank you, councillor James. Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 43 of the agenda, item 11.4, which is S5, Instrument of Delegation to the Chief Executive Officer. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor that forward as a motion? Councillor Summer.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I'd like to move the recommendation as it reads on page 43 as a motion.
Thank you so much. Can I please have a councillor second that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Councillor Spinks. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor Sally. It's just a bit of housekeeping we need to do from time to time.
Very good. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Very briefly expand, just to say that if everything had to come to a council meeting, it'd be a disaster and we'd all stop in our tracks and nothing would happen. So we have to delegate, and every 6 months we have these delegations reviewed to see if there are any legislative changes that need to be put in place, and it comes to a council meeting and we look it over and make sure it's all okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, councillor Spinks. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Any closing comments, councillor Summer?
No, thank you, Mayor Sally.
Councillors, we will now go to the vote. Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 46 of the agenda, item 11.5, S6, Instrument of Delegation to Members of Council Staff. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Dobson.
Yeah, I move the recommendation in 4 parts on page 46. Would you like me to read it all out or just take it as read?
No, that's okay. Take it as read. It's fine.
Thank you. I'll move the recommendation in total.
Thank you so much, councillor Dobson. Can I have a councillor second that motion?
Second the motion. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Thank you, councillor Adam. Councillor Dobson, would you like to speak to the motion?
I just like the words that Councillor Summer and also Councillor Spinks just said. This is a thing we've got to do every 6 months, and there's been no changes in any of the delegations, so that's as it is.
Thank you, councillor Dobson. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
So this is part B to the previous motion.
Very good. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? No. Any closing comments, councillor Dobson?
No, thank you.
Councillors, we will now go to vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 49 of the agenda, item 11.6, S18, Instrument of Subdelegation, Environment Protection Act 2017. There is a recommendation. Can I please have the councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you. I'll move that the recommendation as printed on page 49 of the agenda be moved as a motion.
Thank you so much. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Adam.
I'll second the motion. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Part 3 of our delegations.
Part C.
If you'd like to choose the alphabet, we shall go. This is part C of today's delegation items. What I do want to just say, comments are all the same as the previous two, but I want to highlight that just because we are getting through these very quickly is not to say we do not give them due diligence each time these come around. It is with equal amount of consideration. They just happen to look the same, and this time is totally fine. So, thank you.
Councillor Spinks. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, I think Councillor Spinks covered it perfectly well.
Thank you. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Summer.
Just to suggest in future, perhaps these could all be bundled up into one recommendation.
Noted.
Noted.
If there's nothing else, close.
No, thank you.
Very good. Vote. All those in favour? Councillor Adam, you voting?
Oh, yes, indeed.
All those in favour? Motion passed, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 52 of the agenda, item 11.7, S11A, Instrument of Appointment and Authorisation Planning and Environment Act 1987. Councillors, there is a recommendation across 2 pages. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you. I will move that the recommendation printed on pages 52 and 53 of the agenda be moved as a motion.
Can I have a councillor second that motion?
I'll second the motion. Thank you, Ms. Sally.
Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
The only point I will make to this one is that I did ask our governance team. I found it odd that the specific names of the council staff were being mentioned in the document, but it was confirmed that that is necessary. It can't be the role itself. It has to actually be the individuals that will be undertaking the authorisation. So that is why that is. Thank you.
Great. Councillor Spinks. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Ms. Sally.
Thank you. Councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Oh, very easy. Councillor Spinks, any closing comments?
No, thank you.
Very good. We will now go to vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. We now go to page 56 of the agenda, item 11.8, September 2023 Quarterly Financial Report. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Dobson.
Mayor Sally, I'm going to read a recommendation that differs somewhat, not a hell of a lot, but somewhat from the printed, and I'll read as follows. Council receive and note the September 23 Q1 financial report as attached. 2, adopt the revised 23-24 full year forecast identified in the September 2023 Q1 financial report, with the increase to the GB Link design project capital budget to be $144,000, reflecting the carryover from the 22-23 financial year. And 3, adopt the following amendment to the 23-24 user fees and charges. A new fee, Tatura Park Stables day rate in brackets $12 including GST, and B, revised fee, Tatura Park Stables in brackets overnight rate $24 including GST.
Very good, Councillor Dobson. Councillors, you all should have a printout of that in front of you, so we should all be clear on that new proposed motion. Very good. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Summer. Councillor Dobson, would you like to speak to the motion?
In 2 parts, if you don't mind. I want to just quickly discuss the $144,000. That's part of a $500,000 allocation in the budget previously, and there was an underspend of last year's allocation of $144,000. We're bringing it forward into this financial year. So if anybody's interested in why that increase, it is because we had a decrease in the last year. Councillor Mayor Sally, the council's projected adjusted underlying operating result is a deficit of $22 million. That's a bit different to the one which we just the normal one, because there's an amount of money in there which was received this year, and it was to do with last year's. That's how I understand it anyway. So that puts a reflection on the actual result. So there was assistance grants received in advance, that's a better way of putting it, in the 22-23 year, and the uncertainty around a future portion of early, if any, 2024-25 grants. We can never really put in what we think the grants are going to be in the adjusted underlying surplus, because we really don't know until we get those monies in. This is a $14.26 million decrease from the adopted budget in Q1, the forecast of which 16.3 is the grant in advance, as I just discussed. Adjusting for this internal or non-audited result is really a 5.78 deficit. So if you put the 5.78 deficit along with the 14.63, you get that major figure, which reflects the challenge that council faces in sustainable delivery of services the community value and need. And people must be getting sick of us saying this, but we, as councillors, we're still going to be very mindful of the effects of really the COVID time. You might think, oh, that's done and dusted, but in people's minds, and the medical results will tell you that not only is it a financial problem, but it's also a psychological problem. And of course, we had the floods as well. The other part that I just want to go to is the asset renewal, which has always been one of my babies. Page 243, I'll just get to it now. The asset renewal is 105%, I think it is. And I'll just confirm that. 243, sorry, 243. The asset renewal is about 105%, which is well over, in my opinion, or justifiably over the 100% renewals that we've got to have. Looking at our investments, there's $31 million invested in various banks, in financial institutions at the moment, and the majority of that, other than one small part which is not rated because it's money with the GMCU, is either in A1 plus, A1 or A2, and that's as per council's recommendations. I want to go on to the cash flow, which is always an interesting one to me. I think it balances out a balance sheet. It means more to me. On page 243, I'll just go for it with the report. There it is there somewhere. I haven't quite got it here. Somebody can help me pick it up. 241, I might just come back to that. I might come back to that, but as per normal, the cash flow talks about the money coming in versus the money going out, and there's been a slight overspend this term because we've been buying more equipment, which is taking our financial assets. Our asset renewal I've just discussed, and cash flow. The other interesting thing is for our community is there's 34,534 rates assessments, and that's a hell of a lot of different individual amounts of rates that have got to come in. Out of that, their current payment plans is 927. That is people paying on either a 10 monthly or a 3 monthly cycle, and we're finding more and more that's the way things are going. That's telling us that the sundry debtors, there's nearly 800,000 in the 0 to 30 days, which is in cycle with our rates notices going out. There's only 104,000 in the 31 to 60. The 61 to plus days is 447,000. That probably reflects some money's left over from the last financial year, and it's an area that I think we should continue to look at. As I said before, with the floods and COVID and lack of opportunity, I think the council has been, very good in identifying some of those areas in need where people can't really step up to the mark the way we'd like them to. So all in all, still a good result. The liquidity is always a backbone of mine. The liquidity tells us that there's 368% liquidity, that is current assets over current liabilities, but it does take into consideration the full amounts of the rates that we get each year. So I'd rather look at the projected full year is our liquidity is 138%. That means there's 138% more current assets over current liabilities. It's always a good sign.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson. Councillor Summer.
I'll reserve my right to speak.
All right. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I just thought I'd make mention to the public. Often we go through these figures and we use acronyms and we use different terminologies that not everyone will probably understand. And I think what we were talking about before is in regards to the federal financial assistance grants. Now, just to let the public know that these are grants that are given by the federal government to all councils throughout Australia. And the difficulty with that, particularly for our bean counters, the ones over in the finance department, is that you cannot guarantee when you're going to get them. You might get them pre the financial year, before you're doing your budget. You might get them during the financial year. You might get them at the very end of the financial year. It's really hard then to get a grasp on where you are financially across the year. So they do an awful good job to try and even try and match that up. The other thing is you don't know how much you're going to receive either. So it's not a fixed amount that you can actually say, look, we can put this aside and we can then put that towards that. So, you know, budgeting for it can be really, really difficult. And that really does throw out the adjusted underlying operating surplus or deficit, or whichever way you're going, depending on when you get that funding through. So sometimes you might hear, say, in a particular month, things are going really well, other months it doesn't sound like it's going really well. And because of that adjusting all the time, it makes it really difficult to get a grasp on where we're at. And the actual funds that we get from the federal government, it's not a bonus, it's actual money that we actually put towards expenditure on our services. So we actually account for it, we actually use that money. And look, without it, our liquidity ratio would decrease over a period of time. Obviously the assets as a percentage of the liabilities, but if we didn't get those grants, we would be in awful trouble, as would most councils around Australia. So we're very appreciative of getting it. It just makes it really difficult for our finance department.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Summer, would you like to use your...
No, thank you, Ms. Sally.
Councillor Dobson, any closing comments?
Yeah, I just found the part about the asset renewal. It is 105% within the desired range. It's a decrease from the adopted budget of 119%, but all in all, I think it's a healthy result. But I must again say, and we talk here on capital works expenditure, I didn't pick that up. The capital works expenditures decreased by $5.93 million compared to the adopted budget, primarily due to the reduction in scope of the 2022 October flood seal roads remediation project, which is 6.87 million, and offset by increase to work required for the Marlborough Drive and Knight Street. That sealed roads remediation project is often talked about, and it's one of our big expense items that normally we would not have other than the flood operation we had in October 2022. So as a council, we've really got to use that, and we do use that as a priority. So if other things are going by the board, we must keep that as a priority.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Dobson. Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried. Unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 61 of the agenda, item 11.9, Annual Report 2022 to 2023. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Latson.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I'd like to move the recommendation on page 60, item 11.9, Annual Report 2022 to 2023. The recommendation as follows: that the council note the 2022 to 2023 annual report for the year ended 30th of June 2023, including the financial statements and performance statement as certified by the Auditor General as attached.
Thank you, Councillor Latson. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Summer. Councillor Latson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sally. I'd like to talk to the report, that it's a well-polished document and that it's really ties up and sums up the year in, or the financial year in full, that, you know, through the floods and the troubles that have been encountered by and tackled head on by council and in supporting the community, and also the highlights that the community has faced since then and prior to then. You can look through the document and you see some of the events that council has hosted and put on for the community. And then just in conclusion, that the council receives and considers the Greater Shepparton City Council annual report for the year ended 30th of June 2023, including the financial statements and performance statement as certified by the Auditor General. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Latson. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. The annual report is like a report card to the community. It provides an account of council's performance to our community. It details council's achievements against the goals of the council plan and our performance against stipulated measures. This annual report is the second report against the year 2 of the council plan 2021 to 2025, which can be found on council's website. Maybe that should be 2024. But yeah, no, it's worth reading. It probably doesn't reach as many people as it deserves to reach. It's a lovely document, glossy document, easy to read, but all we can really do is encourage the community to take a look if they get the opportunity.
Councillor Summer, are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Dobson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Sally. Look, this document, I think one of the good things about this document, it's gone to Vago, and they've endorsed it without qualification, save a couple of spelling errors or whatever. And I think that's probably the major thing that we've got to be very proud of, and I congratulate our finance team under Director Chris Teitzel and his crew for putting this document together. But they do it throughout the whole year, and I think they are to be complimented. And it talks about council's financial management. And as councillors, that's one of our major issues, is council's financial management during the previous financial year. And it's terrific when we can go to the public, and we can go to the state government, and we can go to Vago, and we can go to our external auditors and our internal auditors, and the accounts are there and they're unblemished. And you know, there's a lot of councils around Victoria that you know, that are having difficulties. And I think this council should be very proud of itself, and our management team should be very proud of itself in the way in which our finances are conducted.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Dobson. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? I'll just really quickly, obviously, just congratulate Pete and the exec team. I think the 31st was the cut-off, and we did speak about that last week, and yeah, grateful to see this in the agenda today. So great work to the team in pulling this document together. As Councillor Latson said, highly detailed document. Even when I read it, you genuinely forget about some of the things that we've done over the year, and you learn actually sort of what's been happening outside what anyone might think council is doing. If you want to know actually what we are doing, get a hold of this document. It's available online. We can get a hard copy, I think, here in the office. But yeah, very well done to the whole team that's put this together. It's a lot of work to go into showcase what takes place over the course of the last 12 months, so well done. Councillor Latson, any closing comments?
No, thank you, Mayor Sally.
Very good. Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 63 of the agenda, item 12.1, park naming of Trinity Park, Vermont Park and Glenferrie Park. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Latson.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I'd like to move the recommendation on page 63 of the agenda, item 12.1, park naming Trinity Park, Cormorant Park and Glenferrie Park. That the recommendation as follows. The council approve the naming of Trinity Park, Cormorant Park and Glenferrie Park in line with naming rules for Places Victoria 2022.
Thank you, Councillor Latson. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Brophy. Councillor Latson, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor Sally.
Councillor Latson. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Look, yes, I will. Thank you, Mayor Sally. The naming of those three particular parks are very much destinational names, so it actually shows where the locality of those particular places are. So if you, sometimes it was named just recently the Lance Woodhouse Green in Kyalla, which was terrifically named. But in terms of for emergency services, it's always important to know where the location that they're going. Sometimes a name doesn't always tell them that particular thing. But if you're going to Cormorant Park, you know where Cormorant Boulevard is in Kyalla, and therefore they'll know where to go. So in terms of ambulances, in terms of the fire brigade, etc., and CFA, they'll know where to go. So I think the naming, you know, was of going through the normal processes.
Very good, thank you, councillor Brophy. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? No, any closing comments, councillor Ladson?
No, thank you, Mayor Sally.
Very good, councillor. Go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 67 of the agenda, item 12.2, Visitor Experience Innovation Grant 2023. There is a recommendation. Can I please have the councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Dobson.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I move that the council note the successful applicants awarded funding under delegated authority for round 4 of the Visitor Experience Innovation Grants program as follows. Park Lake Hotel, $10,000. Elsewhere at SAM, $6,000, total $16,000. Note receipt of the acquittals for the completed Visitor Experience Innovation Grants project for previous rounds of the Visitor Experience Grants program.
Thank you, councillor Dobson. Have a councillor second that motion. Councillor Brophy.
I second that motion.
Thank you, councillor Dobson. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, there's two interesting ones here. One's the Park Lake Motel, which is a very famous name, but what they're doing there is that they're putting in their amount, and I think it's another $10,000, and they're putting in 4 electric recharge stations. I think that does a number of things. It helps out our climate emergency policies that the CEO Peter Harriott put forward 2 or 3 years ago and his team. And I think it not only is it helping that, but when people know that we've got these electric chargers within a situation like the Park Lake, we know that they're going to come and because of the convenience, and we all know what that means as far as visitor experience. The $6,000 at Elsewhere at SAM, which is the innovative cafe at SAM that a lot of us have been to, and it's quite good. Oh, it's very good. As a matter of fact, there's only a couple of things that are probably wrong, and that's identification or being able to see where it is. And what this $6,000 that council is putting into this program, and Elsewhere at SAM is putting in another $6,000, is that they're going to put items of furniture and flags and what have you that can be seen from the outside now that spring and summer is coming on, that they will enhance the visitor expectations. So both of these, I think, are well worth it. And I won't, there's a whole list of people that have got it in previous years, but there's no need to go into that. But well done. I think both very innovative programs.
Thank you, councillor Dobson. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Now, what attracts visitors to the region? It's our sports, it's our festivals, it's family gatherings, it's shopping, and it's really significant events. And when they need to stay, they need to eat, and they need to also spend some money here. So in order to do that, visitor experience innovation grants have been put on the table. We need to present a visitor experience that not only that they enjoy their stay, but they tell others and they also return as well. And these grants, you know, they're innovative and they sort of provide that opportunity there. The two that were mentioned, you know, an establishment that's been there for well over 50 years and one that's probably been there less than 12 months. But equally, both are deserving there. And just a little plug for Elsewhere at SAM. If you haven't been there before, great food, great service, get yourself down there.
Very good. Councillor Brophy. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion?
Yes, I just want to highlight, Councillor Dobson mentioned in one of the earlier items of the meeting that council does so much more than just rates and rubbish, and this is another one of those wonderful examples. This is one of those many grants programs that that council provides to various aspects of community, and it's really the way in which we partner. Council doesn't need to deliver everything, but can simply take a role in supporting the many businesses or community groups or whoever it might be across our communities to enhance what they provide, and that benefits our community across the board much more widely. So it's really wonderful that we can provide this sort of program where really all we do is provide a little bit of money and they provide such a wonderful outcome to our community. So it's these two ideas are really wonderful, and I'm looking forward to them seeing them come to life.
Right, thank you, councillor Spinks. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Any closing comments, councillor Dobson?
No, not from me, thank you.
Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 74 of the agenda, item 13.1, contract number 2243, provision of heavy plant and equipment hire, wet and dry hire services, panel of suppliers. There is a recommendation over 2 pages. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor James.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Sally. I just beat Councillor Adam on that one. Yeah, I'd like to move the recommendation 13.1 on page 74 of the agenda. Contract number 2243, provision of heavy plant and equipment hire, wet and dry hire services, panel of suppliers. Recommendation that the council, 1, accept the tenders submitted by the following tenderers for contract number 2243, provision of heavy plant and equipment hire, wet and dry hire services, panel of suppliers, and I won't read them out, Mayor Sally. I'll go to number 2, and that's note the contract term is for a period of 3 years with a potential 1 year further term. Estimated contract value over a 4-year period is $7,200,000 inclusive of GST. And number 3, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to execute the contract documents and approve any contract extension as deemed appropriate.
Very good, thank you, Councillor James. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Adam.
Mayor Sally, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor James, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally. Just very quickly again, the purpose of this contract is to replace expired contract 1789, provision of heavy plant and equipment hire, wet and dry hire services, panel of suppliers, which expired on the 22nd of June 2023. The services are used predominantly by civil department, but other departments such as parks, sports and recreation and projects have also used the services previously. The annual expenditure on the provision of heavy plant and equipment hire, wet and dry hire services by contractors is approximately $1,800,000 over the term of this contract, including the extension, is expected that expenditure will be in the order of $7,200,000 inclusive. This contract is a period of 3 years with a 1-year option to extend at council's discretion. Council advertised the provision of heavy plant and equipment hire, wet and dry hire services, panel of suppliers tender via tender search, Shep News and the Age newspaper, and received 26 tender submissions. Following evaluation, the tender evaluation panel recommends that all the 26 tenderers be appointed to the panel. The appointed contractors will form a panel of suppliers to provide plant and equipment, wet and dry hire services to support council staff in maintaining the infrastructure network throughout the municipality. This includes road and drainage construction, road and drainage maintenance, landfill compaction, material cartage. The provision of the heavy plant and equipment services will ensure that council has readily available access to suitable plant and hire equipment to effectively manage roads, footpaths, drainage and associated civil assets, in line with basically the flood damage that we did receive. It does address all of these issues. All the 26 tenderers demonstrated safe work systems and practices for these types of works. The tenderers provided evidence of previous experience and capability in providing heavy plant and equipment. Local companies are well represented in this contract, with a total of 13 having head offices within the Greater Shepparton municipality. And again, Mayor Sally, that it also very important for us to incentivise our local businesses, and just want to say congratulations to all the businesses and our contractors for applying for this very important part of our community and our services. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor James. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sally, and thank you, Councillor James. You pretty much said what I was going to say. Just want to add or reiterate that it's good to see there's a lot of local representation on this panel. Sometimes a little bit confused in respect to the that are brought up in these. This is where motion is about actually forming this panel of suppliers. Whether we spend 7.2 million or 10 million or 3 million, that's all dependent on the projects that come forward next year in regard to our capital works budget. So I suppose it's there as an indication to show how important selecting the right people are, but I just sometimes don't see the relevance of those numbers, because they're not actually budgeted numbers at all. They're just estimates. That said, good on the guys who made the panel and power to them.
Very good, councillor Adam. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor James?
No, thank you, Mayor Sally.
Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried and opposed. Councillors, we now go to page 79 of the agenda, item 13.2, contract number CN 2026, manufacture and supply of curbside collection bins, glass only and FOGO. There is a recommendation. Councillors, can I please have someone put that forward as a motion? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you. I would like to move that the council, I'm going to read it out, that the council, one, award contract number 2026, manufacture and supply of curbside collection bins, glass only and FOGO to Mastec Australia Pty Ltd for the lump sum price of $1,411,361.60, including GST, and two, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to execute such documents as are necessary to give effect to this resolution.
Very good, councillor Spinks. Can I have a councillor second that motion?
In the motion, Mayor Sally.
Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, yes. Being very clear that this discussion, this decision today, sorry, is nothing to do with the previous decisions that have been made around whether or not certain bins are required. This is simply about who makes the bins. So today we are awarding the contract to the successful tenderer for the making of the FOGO and purple bins, purple lid bins that will be required for the changes that are coming over the next 12 months. It did go through, as mentioned in a previous item, it has gone through a Procurement Australia online portal, which allows for a panel of pre-approved suppliers. There are no local contractors that manufacture and supply the bins specified, so we have had to contractors apply that were based outside of Greater Shepparton, but they both met the criteria, and ultimately through the tendering process and the panel and evaluation criteria, it has led to the successful company, which is Mastec Australia Pty Limited. So today we are approving the awarding of that contract, and I support that. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Spinks. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
I can't really add much more, thank you, Mayor Sally, except to say that 2 submissions is probably disappointing. However, it's a specialist field, I suspect. There wouldn't be a lot of smaller companies doing this sort of stuff. So congratulations to Mastec. As councillor Spinks said, the process has been thoroughly adhered to. We've got faith in the Procurement Australia, and that's who we've got, and let's move forward.
Very good. Thank you, councillor Adam. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? No? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Very good. Closing comments, councillor Spinks?
No, thank you.
Councillors, we will now go to vote. All those in favour? Motion carried and opposed. Councillors, we now go to page 84, the agenda item 14, confidential management reports nil received. Item 15, documents for signing and sealing nil received. Over the page to 85, which is agenda item 16.1.1, councillor activities, September 2023. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I put forward the recommendation with council and note the summary of the councillors' community interactions and informing councillors.
Thank you, councillor Brophy. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Ladson. Councillor Brophy, would you like to speak to the motion? Yeah,
obviously a number of activities again last month. I just touched on a couple of those. One was wonderful to be at the 40th birthday afternoon tea of the Isabella Pierce Kindergarten out at Orvale. Absolutely magnificent to see so many that may have attended the kindergarten 40 years ago and have had their children go through there as well, and probably getting close to grandchildren going through there. It's a wonderful little community, and a full credit to the ones that started it out there and how big it has got there as well. Another one being the over at Tatura, the awards evening for the CFA. We'd like to thank always the CFA for all that they do. You know, they've been through some troubling times with the amalgamations and all of that as well, but it was wonderful to be over in Tatura to recognise those particular awards. And just the last one I'd like to mention was that we welcomed last month the Legacy Centenary Torch Relay. So this is a relay of the torch which set out in Pozières in France a little bit over 6 months ago. and transversed around the world to get to the Shrine of Remembrance down in Melbourne, and it came through Shepparton, and it was really wonderful to see. So it's 100 years of legacy. So in 1923, Legacy had made a promise to help veteran families carry on with their lives after the loss and injury of their loved ones. And it was a simple promise that Legacy keeps today. And I won't go through the figures, but it's outstanding the work that they do and the amount of people that they still support in that. The relay, as I said, came through, and they had a lovely stop there at the Legacy House in Edward Street. And I must say there were a lot of veterans who lost family members who were actually given the honour of carrying the torch. It was probably the slowest moving torch relay I've ever seen in my life, but it was, they said, we'll just go around the block, and 45 minutes later they reappeared. So it was a really slow, no wonder it took so 6 months. But wonderful for Legacy, and wonderful for our locals to be part of that. It was just, and for their families to be there as well.
Councillor Latz, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sali. Just for a brief Latto's deep dive into World Rivers Day that was celebrated last month, and there was no shortage of boats and homemade land-based vessels, we'll say, that partook in the World Rivers Day, which was well attended and enjoyed by those that attended. And the other one was the annual Mooroopna All Abilities Football Netball Carnival hosted. Well done to all the participants in that. It's a real highlight on the calendar for Mooroopna and for everybody that partakes in that. And with many travelling, multiple hours each way. So it's such an asset to have that at Mooroopna Recreational Reserve that, it's inspiring seeing what happens down there. So thank you.
Very good. Councillor Watson, any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak? Any closing comments, councillor Briefing?
No, thank you.
Very good. Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried and opposed. Page 87 of the agenda, item 1.1.2, report on Murray-Darling Conference 2023. There is a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Dobson.
I move that the council receive and note Councillor Jeffrey Dobson's report, Murray-Darling Conference 2023.
Suppose you got that right. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Latson. Councillor Dobson, would you like to speak to the motion?
The report is there for everybody to see, but there's probably a couple of things I'd like to point out, and one is that I'd like to really thank council in backing us on this one, and in particular I'd like to thank and congratulate our CEO Peter Harriott, who I would reckon amongst all the CEOs that are around in local government, would have more information and more uptake on the Murray-Darling Basin and the ramifications therein, especially to do with Shepparton, than anybody else. Peter, your knowledge is invaluable, so I'd like to thank you. And of course, Mayor Shane Sarley, who jumped out of the blocks when we got to Murray Bridge, and there wasn't a delegate there that I think didn't know Shane Sarley in the 24 hours. Suffice to say that we were the only Victorian council represented there. And it's very important that the number of councils along the Goulburn River and along the Murray River really who have an in-depth view of this, or sort of have an obligation towards this. I just can't believe that more people weren't there. I mean, it's unbelievable. Just to let you in on a couple of facts. One is that the people up by cohorts up in the Northern Basin coming out of Queensland, to do with floodplain harvesting, and whose river is the Darling River, they have a different point of view to us, and you're walking on broken glass when you're trying to negotiate a deal that would suit all. Make no mistake, the Federal Environmental Minister, Tanya Plibersek, wants to take 450 gigalitres away from the consumptive pool that's around at the moment. And in the main, she's got some reports that the easiest way to do that, a couple of scientists have suggested that the 450 gigs should come straight out of the irrigators' pockets. And out of the irrigators' pockets, when you take away the Murray irrigation area, both sides of the Murray River and both sides of the Goulburn River, there's not too many other places that at the moment, under the present arrangements, that the government can find 450 gigalitres of water to take away from irrigators. There needs to be more water coming down the Darling River. It is an environmental problem. It's an environmental problem for the Goulburn River because there's too much water going down the Goulburn River and messing up the banks, and the Murray River at Dungala, as Councillor James would understand, there's just too much water surging down on too many times. So too much water coming down the Goulburn River, and it's going straight down to the Coorong. In fact, when we were there, the guide down there was very happily telling us that the surge of water that's in the Goulburn River at the moment, when we were there, was to flush out the Coorong. We saw the surge of water before we went, and it was a bit difficult, a bit hard to explain because the Coorong is another man-made problem altogether. So there's too much water coming out of the Goulburn River, and there's not enough water floating down the Darling River to do one thing, that is provide the required environmental works, environmental water needed for those areas from up the other side of Burke down to Wentworth. There's just not enough water coming down, and that water should be harvested from some of the irrigators up north. And so the New South Wales government and the federal government have got a lot of work to do. We met with the Federal Environmental Minister. We were able to ask a question. I met with the opposition spokesman on water, and I put the same proposition to her, and she was here on the following Monday. Since then, the three of us have been to Canberra. You might say, why? Well, we're there to talk to Councillor David Pocock, who's one of the independents in the Senate, who will... Senator David Pocock, who may have an influence on where this vote goes. We also spoke to the office of Senator Jackie Lambie, and we put the same proposition to her that the Goulburn Valley has done its bit. We've spent our $2 billion. We are for the environment, but we believe we've done our bit. Since then, I've had two conversations with people. One, I'm having a telephone hookup with a solicitor from Sydney who wants to talk to me about water, about the Murray-Darling Basin, and also a farmer from down in the Western District who is coming to Shepparton next Monday and wants to talk with the GMID Water Leadership Group. And they now see council, as they always have, but now, since we've got on social media and in the press, they see us as big players. Councillors, we've got to remain as big players in this space, and I commend the Mayor and I commend our CEO for being with us in the journey. It's a journey that may not end well, I'm not too sure, but we will go down fighting.
Very good, Councillor Dobson. Councillor Latson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. I just want to commend Councillor Dobson and the Mayor Sarley and CEO Peter Harriet for the time and work that you're doing around the Murray-Darling. The water is just the lifeblood of our community, and without it, it would be a devastating effect. So commend the work that you guys have been doing and fully support it.
Right, thank you, Councillor Latson. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Mayor Sarley. Look, it is really important that we're out and about in regards to this. This has been going on for so long now in regards to the Murray-Darling Basin, the plan that was being put forward. I think when you actually go and see the different tributaries and the basin, all around the basin, when you actually know what's going on and when you're actually there, you get a far better understanding, the visual and the understanding of what's going on in and around it, and talking to the right people. I certainly compliment and thank our Mayor and CEO for, taking up the charge and going interstate on several occasions to push that. And of course, I've always spoke about Councillor Dobson being on that particular committee and really pushing that forward. And thank you for the report on that too. And I'll certainly call on Minister Plibersleck, who has been invited to come here. You are welcome. Please come.
Yes.
And have a look at that. I can honestly say that going back, probably back to about 2006, 2007, when the plan was put in place, that we had the then Water Minister at the time, Malcolm Turnbull, come and visit us. And I must say that I was very fearful, because when he first arrived, he actually saw water being a tradable commodity. He didn't understand what it actually meant. 6 months later, he returned, and he certainly learned a lot in that period of time. Again, because he got out and he went around the basin and he understood. He came back and he was able to understand that water is the lifeblood of the communities, but it also is very important for the environment as well. And there's a balance there, and that balance needs to play out. And in taking all the parochial state aside and territories aside, you need to be able to understand holistically how it needs to flow, and for both the environment and also for our communities. So important. So thank you for doing that, and thank you to our leadership for that.
Yep, very good. Thank you, Councillor Breathy. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you. Yes, I want to thank Councillor Dobson for putting in this report. We've seen a number of them now, and there are many different ways to do the role of councillor, and this is one of the avenues that are available to us, and I respect the time that it takes for him to personally write these submissions and bring them to the table. I do note that there are varying perspectives and thoughts on this particular issue, but I appreciate that this report outlines the personal experiences and personal opinions of Councillor Dobson, and I recognise that today we are simply receiving and noting this report and there's no decision to be made, but I thank him for taking the time to go through this process and know that he's got the effort to do it. So I appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
Very good, Councillor Spinks. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor James.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I don't know about the Rivers are probably high for crying about the popularity of their mayor. I'm not sure about that. It is disappointing that our mob, not a critical sense, but more of an in point, it's disappointing that our mob, our nation sort of missed the opportunity to provide that sort of, that all-important cultural narrative, and Councillor Dobson knows that we've had this discussion, and rest assured, Councillor Dobson, that I'll be pushing that over the next period from here onwards. It's really important that we have that cultural narrative, that inclusion in there from a cultural perspective. Yorta nations and my people are very important in that, and have been advocating for clarity of water, as you know, for quite some time. And we are in that all-important corridor of water from here right down, and important for a number of ways. But we have some concerns about scarring and etc. And our nations have raised these issues before, but we haven't been a little bit more firmer with in regards to the environmental issues and the flow-on effect, etc. The water is important to our community here. We know it's the lifeblood of our industry here in Shepparton, and we do need to consider the environmental flows, and yourself and Mayor Sally and our CEO saw exactly where the path continues and where it actually ends up. So it's important for us to advocate for that too as well. Put the political pressure on from the federal government point of view. I don't know whether it's going to make any changes or not, but I thank you for the advocacy from our community point of view too as well. I know that having our presence there, I know we may not see the effects of it, but just by being there and saying that yes, Shepparton is there, and we are one of the vital contributors in it as well. And yeah, thank you very much to all of you for being that advocate for us as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor James. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Really quickly, just to pick up on Councillor Spinks' point, Councillor Dobson, obviously thanks for putting this report together. I know you and I debated long and hard who was going to put this report in, so you bet me to it. But I must say, obviously going down there and getting the visual, an eye-opener would be an understatement, but I think it's really clear as we're continuing this journey and the stories evolving and the messaging and understanding the different competing interests, and I think the water bill that I keep referring back to, which is restoring our rivers, and that's what we've got to be focused on, which is effectively getting the rivers back into an environmentally healthy position, which they currently aren't at the moment. And it's when we went to Senator Pocock and met with him, and we're the only community representative sitting around the table, I must remind you as well. Everyone else there has a vested interest in regards to financial backing by others. We are the only community people in the room. So grateful for the opportunity that they give us to put our points across. Very clear, and we said it around the table. You can give report after report after report after report after report. They've all been handed to me, they all get handed around, right? The reality is there's not enough water going down the Darling and there's too much going down the Goulburn. They're both environmental issues. It's as simple as that, and we need more time to have greater conversations with people. As Greg mentioned, Indigenous consultation is vitally important, and I think just it's what I've learned over this small journey, other than the fact of what I knew before, is you can complicate it, but it's so simple. Too much water down the Goulburn, not enough down the Darling. If someone can explain to me what's happening there, and at the moment no one can, and justifiably, there's enough water at the top end of the Darling, just somehow it doesn't get down to the bottom. So I'll let you work out what's happening there with that water. But it's very simple. I appreciate Councillor Dobson's advocacy and Peter Harriott as well. When we're in the room, it's great. There's a lot of passion, and what we've basically committed to is that we'll get to the end of this, and we obviously want the outcome to be positive for all reasons, but I can guarantee we won't leave one stone unturned, so we're going to push right through to the end. Any closing comments, Councillor Dobson?
Just a couple. The theme of the conference talk was environment. Now, how you deal with water in the environment, that's where the differing views come in. So the environment was always number one. Critical human needs was number two. And irrigation and growing crops was probably, with critical human needs, was number two. The environment, as it should be, was always number one. The other interesting thing for Councillor James is that the Murray-Darling Basin Authority really needs the Aboriginal communities right throughout the basin to be not just tagging along for the ride, but to start to deliver I guess, deliver the right outcomes, because they are the experts. They've been doing it for 65,000 years, and they're still there, the Aboriginal communities. So again and again, the Aboriginal communities were brought up, and how they use environmental water, and how they use it for critical human needs, and how they also looked after their crops. So it's a variety of cases, and I know you're on the job with it. And but rest assured, Councillor James, that First Nations people are very well at the forefront of the Murray-Darling Basin Authority.
Very good, Councillor Dobson. Right, councillors, if there's nothing else, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 89 of the agenda. Item 17, notice of motion, amendment or rescission nor received. Item 18, urgent business not included on the agenda. Is there any urgent business that has arisen since? No. Item 19, close of meeting, which I will do now at 4:52 p.m. Well done, guys.